Hi, besties. We are here with two people that need no introduction, but we are going to give them one anyway. Both stars of musical theatre. We are here with Jeremy Jordan and Frances Mayli McCann today. So, we are here to talk about something really exciting today. It is about the stream Bonnie and Clyde. That was performed at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane a couple of years ago now. It's happening today. There we go. You'll be seeing this in a few days'
It
time.
is now available.
Today. Look how that's all synced up. That's worked
Immediately
out
leave
well.
this interview and watch it. You can come
Yeah,
back to the interview later.
literally. First, Jeremy, Clyde Barrow must feel like an old friend now to you.
Yeah, I mean, I started that journey back in 2010, and then we filmed this in 2022, early 2022, and that was 2.5 years ago. So he's been inside me for a long time. It was kind of wild. Leave it. It was kind of wild because obviously I've grown since Broadway. It was almost 10 years to the day that we had closed, that we filmed this. Yeah, and it sort of came back with a fierceness that I don't really remember it coming back with. And I think what was really nice is that I've had time to grow and sit with it, but at the same time, it was this limited. We did 2 shows, and so everything was just like
Yeah.
there was nothing being held back, you
Yeah.
know? And when you're doing 8 shows a week, you have to kind of like pace yourself. And I definitely did not do that. I remember after the second show, I was like, and I'm done.
Goodbye.
So also, my body was 10 years older at the same time too. I was like, yeah, what's going on?
And for you, Francis, when you were first cast in Bonnie and Clyde, was the show new to you at the time, or had you been listening to it? Did you know about the show for a few years?
Yeah, I knew the album, like most of us did in the UK. We were waiting for the show to be over. And when the concert got announced, it was so exciting. And then when I got the call to be in it, I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I was really shocked for a long time, but also so excited to bring this show to the UK and bring it to the stage at the Drury Lane. So it was kind of like career changing for me, and singing Dying Ain't So Bad, which I've been singing for years in auditions and concerts, being the voice for the UK to sing that was a great privilege.
Did you have to audition?
Yeah, so they asked me to go in and just put down Dying Ain't So Bad in one of the scenes, just to send to Frank in the American scene, just to get the okay.
Got it. Had you worked with anybody before? Sorry, I don't know these things.
Casting, they had seen me in shows, and I've worked with Nick before.
Oh, so you knew Nick. That's good. That's helped.
Nick, and I knew coming into the concert that it was going to be more than a concert.
You knew Nick Winston, and the rest of us were like, "Oh, that's what this guy does."
You brought up Dying Ain't So Bad there, and I also will go back to raise a little hell with this. In contemporary musical theatre, there are certain songs and there are certain notes within songs that are people's favourite moment.
No.
To either of you, when you're going into a big note like that, have you just learned now to it's part of the process I'm in, or is it ever some nerves going into those big notes that everybody loves?
Oh God, yeah, there's nerves sometimes. I don't remember the last time I did a show feeling like 100%. You're always tired about something, especially for me now that I'm a parent. I'm always freaking tired. And I woke up this morning with my kid after coming home at 1:30 a.m. and then she went off to her little summer camp, and I took a 2-hour nap. I don't nap. What's happening?
Oh, no.
But yeah, so I mean, I think it comes out normally, so you have to trust that it comes out at that time. There have been times when I've done shows. There's like a note in Gatsby right now that I'm like, I'm taking a break from that note because I need to not stress about it. It can be tricky, but
yeah. It can be scary and daunting, especially when people know the score and they're waiting for that expectation on it. But like Jeremy said, you've got to trust it and trust yourself. And I think the lucky thing for me was I knew the song already, so I wasn't coming into singing a brand new song and had the fear of this note. I think as soon as you start to think about it and fear it, that's when it could go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But with this content, so immersed and focused on your telling and like what's next, that I just had to fully commit to the character and to the story that I'm telling. And once you do that, you kind of forget all the technical things and enjoy it more. So that as well for me always helps.
For sure.
I mean, Dying Ain't So Bad, before she used to be mine with Waitress, Dying Ain't So Bad catapulted into people's rep folders. It was the song, right? Everyone was like, that's going in. So many auditions.
Unlike Raise a Little Hell, which most people annoyingly tried to sing, and I felt bad because I would be amongst those. I've learned since then, if I created Bonnie and Clyde today, I might have made a different choice. Because like the sustainability of that, we only were open for a couple months. So I was okay, but I don't know.
So it wasn't initially meant to be that high. Did you make that choice in the recording booth?
The way that Frank writes is that he kind of gives you a blueprint, and you make it your own.
Right.
At least that's what I did, and I know that's what Frances did as well. So a lot of those things in that song were really just dealer's choice. Like there's this part where it goes, "Time to make it crowded, baby." Like that's just stuff that I made up. I think the melody is da 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 da. That's all it is. And I was like, no, I'm gonna just go up. You know, so it's like he gives you this bass line because he's like a jazz writer, and you just get to do your own thing. So it changed all the time for me too. So what's on the album is just what I did that day.
Yeah. Yeah, you are known as like a veteran of the role of Clyde now. But the thing is, you both have actually had 3 processes now, at least, for this role. Jeremy, you had Off-Broadway, Broadway, and then the concert. But then Frances, you had the concert, and then you had the arts theatre, and then I completely forget the theatre that was after that. Yeah, so you've had 3 completely different processes. A question to either of you, really. Did you use the same processes every time, or because time had passed in between, were there different approaches to the roles?
Yeah, it was different every time for me, really. Like the concert was a whirlwind. We just had to learn it and do it. There was not really time for much else. And then we had a couple of months between the concert and the West End. That time was amazing to reflect on what I did and what changes I then wanted to implement and just let it evolve.
Yeah.
And in rehearsals to do more research and develop the characters and make those choices. And then coming back to it again for the Garrick, it was the same again. Like, oh, I'm going to try this time. And with Frank's music, being able to make it your own, it just kept evolving and growing, which is like an amazing thing to be able to do with the show. Time away and come back with new thoughts and ideas.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because obviously it was the opposite for me. So like my final evolution was in the concert, which I feel bad about because I'm like, oh, I get to like make like these cool new decisions and like really feel like I've learned so much and I get to implement it finally. And all these people are just like, here's our first instinct, you know?
That's on.
So, yeah, but I mean, all that said, I think everybody came off brilliantly. But yeah, this one was definitely a lot different than the other two. The other two were pretty close to each other. The casts were almost identical, except for a few people. And it was just like building on the one before. You know, obviously we had a whole process to discover these characters. There was a lot of rewrites. There were so many songs that we tried and didn't work. There were a lot of things that were cut. There were some, you know, questionable lyrics that got cut. There were some questionable scenes that got cut. There were things that we further expanded on because we're like, oh, this makes more sense if let's linger on it. Like some of the Bonnie and Clyde scenes used to be really short. Like the bullet scene was really short. The poetry scene, the first poetry scene was really short, and we just kept building on it. And it became like the really keystone moments, at least for me, in the show, are these moments of connection and friction between these two characters that I think Frankie brought like really amazingly instinctually to our production, because it took us a really long time initially to sort of figure out what that dynamic was.
Yeah.
And she just snapped right into it. So I was very happy and impressed with that. And those are my favorite scenes to watch back when we watched it yesterday, or when they're just like so in love and then like instantly just start fighting. And then are back to being in love, and then are just like at each other's throats. You're like, oh, it's like, oh, I know that couple. They didn't work out in the end. But unluckily for Bonnie and Clyde, they didn't get a chance to finally realize that maybe they were a little toxic.
Yeah, just a little.
Before it was too late. But sometimes the toxic love stories are the most passionate ones, you know. They tend to be the ones that have the most fire, and sometimes it's too much. And I guess it kind of was for them, you know. She probably should have left a long time ago, but because of the feeling, she didn't.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so much to explore with those characters as well. There's a great book called "Is It They Go Down Together" or something like that, which really goes into detail about them as a couple. And it was incredible. They weren't actually very good bank robbers when you really read into it. A lot of it failed, but as you say, it was a toxic relationship. But what is toxic for them is very intoxicating for the audience, and there's a reason I think the show's got so many fans.